I also use it's not really just a thinking framework. I think it's reality that we have an inner child. And it's not a weird thing. It's just being in touch with understanding what it was for you to be younger and how you experienced life, because we forget about that. So I think what I told her is, says you often get this, because she's like a CFO of a company. She's a CA, studied CA, that kind of thing. And I had to sell the concept of an inner child to her, because it doesn't come easy for her to think in those terms. She's from the more exact sciences than these fuzzy human sciences. So I sort of sold her on the idea there is in every one of us an inner child. But what I found is that you get an inner child and you get a very disciplinarian adult. That's often, and I really do find that. When there's an inner child that's scared, that acts out of place, and always acting is at this current age. For her it was throwing her toys out of the cot if her fiance doesn't do certain things. Typically like a young child would do. So that could also be an expression of the inner child. So I told her there's always, when there is an inner child, there's always a disciplinarian adult or parent. Or there's just a kind adult.
Is that within yourself now?
Within yourself.
So a hurt inner child may result in a disciplinary.
No. She is this is her dynamics, if I can explain it to you. Because we chatted about, she repeats certain things which she doesn't want to repeat. And then she feels guilty and she gets angry with herself. And the guilt leads her to she can't forgive herself. No ways. Because I know I'm going to do it tomorrow again. So there's no way I can forgive myself. So there's this anger. Now that anger, I told her, is more the disciplinarian adult that gets angry at this vulnerable, unstructured child in her, that doesn't know what schedule is, that doesn't know what it means to be on time, that doesn't know what it means to stop when you start to use something, or the child doesn't know what we know. So whenever there's a child that wants to grow up, I found there's a disciplinarian adult. If the child is allowed to grow up, because you as a person, I as a person, is the closest to this child in me, and I can offer this child comfort, security, understanding, empathy, when this child needs it. I'm the first one at the port of call to help this child. But since you don't think like that, you just think, I'm like this, and next time you're disorganized and you're like that. But if you were to draw that distinction just for your own understanding, maybe, and for your own helping yourself to help yourself, kind of thing. So I told her, you are there immediately when that child presents herself. Try next time to be understanding towards her. Or try next time to give her a hug. However that can happen. It's okay. You're hurting. You're unsure of yourself. You feel unsafe. It's okay. You can be that for now. The moment that happens, really, I've seen it. I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in other people. That we switch the paradigm to see it like that, instead of not knowing why I'm angry and why I'm so ill-disciplined, and why I'm angry and why I'm so ill-disciplined next day. And just to use that thinking framework to work with for yourself. And when you are ill-disciplined, you sort of just say to yourself, it's the child in me that doesn't know what to do, that feels unsafe maybe, that just needs a little bit of guidance. and here I am to give it. It's okay. Okay, you're unsure of yourself, it's okay. You can be unsure of yourself. You can not know what to do. You can feel insecure, it's fine. I can tolerate you for being like that. Then you make it possible, actually, for that child to start to mature. Because if you go now the route of a very strong theoretical looking at this, maybe Rogers or even Freud, there is what is called fixation, a freezing of an emotion at that age of your life. And that emotion will influence you, will be triggered and will surface. Whenever something that triggers that specific emotion is presented to you or comes in your environment, that emotion will be triggered. Now, what you do with loving that inner child, so to speak, it's just metaphoric, but it could be real. But what you do with loving that inner child is you're thawing that emotion. You're allowing that emotion that was fixated, captured, frozen, to start to thaw. And the moment that happens, that emotion has the potential to grow up and become an adult. And you might find that you don't have that, because this client of mine have very, very distinct experiences of being very angry, very ill-disciplined. She would be very harsh on herself, very, and then she would kick back and take the bottle. And she would start to 1 glass and 2 glass and 3 glass. Like the one I was this morning, what am I now? But the potential, and this doesn't happen in an instant, it's not a miraculous thing. It's just more getting in touch with yourself, loving that inner child, in the process, theoretically speaking, thawing that emotion, and that emotion now has the ability to grow up. Emotions can only grow up if they are allowed. If they are rejected, suppressed, or, denied, they can't become fully what they are. And there are many emotions in many of us that are childish. And not in a bad sense, it's just childlike. But the moment we allow them, that's why Rogers, for instance, is so hooked up on unconditional positive regard. Because in that moment, I allow that child of yours, that childlike emotion or childish emotion, to be accepted. It's like for some the first time in their lives, because the moment when that emotion was allowed, someone must have said, in a case of, let's say, like me, a boy, luister hierso, as jy weer so optree, jy moet verstaan, seuns maak nie so nie. Ons mans maak nie so nie. I will never do it again in front of him. Never. So that emotion is still in me, but it will never be expressed. It will never be expressed again because of the severe rejection that went along with that. But that emotion plays havoc in me sometimes because I am like that. But I don't even know why. I don't know how to interpret it. I don't know what to do with it. But I am like that. And it's only when I, as an adult now, can love that child that got stuck there at the age of 10 or whatever. And when I nurture him, I can nurture him to wholeness, which means maturity or adulthood. I can allow that child to grow up in me. And that emotion or that emotion is not bad, or it's not per se negative, it's just not grown up. It's just childish or childlike. And me allowing me to be. But now, coming back to Roger, if I allow you to be, you can allow yourself to experience that emotion, because this guy's not rejecting me like my father did, or the teacher did, or my mother did, or whatever. For the first time, I can venture again to express that emotion. I can thaw the emotion, I can allow it, and in that process, that emotion has the capacity or potential now to grow up. And that kind of behavior might disappear from you without you putting in the focus in changing the behavior, because behavior is driven by emotion. or by subconscious things which we don't necessarily understand, which might lie in the past. In simplistic terms, it just means love yourself. That's what it means. Love yourself. Love yourself. If it's loving the child in you, if it's loving the bad person in you, if it's loving the weaknesses in you, if it's loving the development areas in you, if it's loving the bad habits in you, love yourself. Because only when you love yourself, you will grow. We cannot grow in a space where there's no love. We can act as if we are in line and aligned, but that's not growth, that's just I'm complying. Yes, I'm complying. I think what I'm saying is love is the essence. Interpersonally, but also intrapersonally. Loving others and creating for them an environment to grow in. The only environment that you can create for growth is love. And then to start to love you. Because if you love yourself, then you will be different. It's now a long-winded explanation of something that might be fundamentally important for us to take note of.
Ik heb ook moeite verstaan in transactionele.
Yes.
To put it together and yourself,
Yeah, it's maybe just a different description of self-compassion.
Yeah.
I tell you, you and I can become fully us if we have self-compassion. The paradox of growth is that if growth can only happen where you first feel loved. But the paradox in that is you should now love things that you would like to change that you dislike about yourself. Hoe kan ek lief wees vir daai aggressiewe persoon wat ek is? Ek weet jy kan nie, maar as jy hom wil verander na 'n minder aggressiewe persoon, moet jy hom eers lief kry. Dis ongelukkig, unfortunately, the paradox of growth. That which you dislike about yourself, that which you hate about yourself, to change that you must first love it, and then it's possible for change to happen. Otherwise, it's just a wrestling match. I dislike, I hate that. And as long as I fight that which I hate, and don't go over to love that, then it will be something that I just fight all the time, but it will manifest every now and then. It will surface.
Is dit dan ook so dat as jy kan leer om vir jouself lief te wees en dit wat negatief is van jou, het jy soveel meer compassion dan met die volgende persoon wat daarmee sukkel?
Ek dink so. I think obviously in the broad sense, our struggles, our sufferings, disappointments, rejections, if we can grow beyond them, and really grow beyond them only means to love until we get out of them. It's not fancy tricks per se, because I can do fancy tricks, but it's not necessarily going to help. But I can love you, and maybe that's going to help every time, all the time. Which is that love is not a soppy, mushy, oversensitive. Love for me is very hard, because I know my heart being very judgmental sometimes. And then I look to someone and I think, yes, I don't have love. And then it's different. Then I start to fight. How can I get to a place where I can love you? So I'm just saying love is very difficult, but our lives and the struggles of our lives and the challenges of our lives is a very strong place and breeding ground and some kind of authority that it presents us with to be able to help other people. If you've gone through serious stuff, if you've gone through divorce or any other deep kind of loss, and eventually you can come to a place where you have either made peace with it or can reach a space of contentment about it, which doesn't mean, it doesn't affect you. It just means that you have made more peace with it than when it first happened. Then you are at a space where you can move from having a lot of, I don't want to use the word authority, but it might be that. Authority is too hierarchical in my thinking. But you've earned your stripes, huh? You've earned the right to help someone who's going through a similar thing. And then there's always going along with that some kind of influence on the level of presence, which I think we all need to aspire to realize that it's not even the skills that we have as coaches or people that want to help other people. It's our presence. Because it's not like, think about it in our relationship with God. He doesn't pull out fancy skills and stuff. He's just with you. And in that, I can jump over a wall, and I can fight lions because he's with me. And my sense of he's with me, his presence. Because sometimes you and I sit with clients and we think, oh, yes, I get a back full time, I can look something to say, hey, you're present. And that might be the thing. You've shown up today, you're there, you're with the person. You might not have the fancy tricks and all the tools and all the skills and all the questioning techniques, but you're present.
And you just